welcome to World Youth Day Rocks. I am Dario Mobini from worldyouthday.com, joined by my good friend Deacon Pedro from WYDcentral.org. Another episode looking at another thing, getting us ready and preparing for World Youth Day in Lisbon, 2023, just approaching
Coming
nearby.
up.
That's right.
Coming up to a Portugal near you.
That's right. Just make sure you guys are getting ready because it is looking to be one of the most amazing World Youth Days
It's gonna be
ever.
it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. But before we even get to think about next year, we need to get to next Sunday, Dario.
Yes. And what is next
Or
Sunday?
Saturday.
While we're on that topic?
Sunday,
Well, it starts
Saturday?
on Saturday. That's right.
Saturday night.
And
So what's happening?
What's happening? You tell me. What's happening this week? I'm not quite sure.
Well, you know
I'm
what? I
losing
don't know.
track of time.
Am I the only person in the world that actually thinks that it's too soon for Christ the King?
You know,
But it's
yes, a little bit. I mean, because Advent is already coming up as well, and it was just kind of scary because we're ending another liturgical year, and I lost track.
it feels like we are a week ahead. Like Christ the King should be the last Sunday in November,
Right.
but this year it's not. This year it's the 20th, so it's the second last Sunday, which means that Advent starts the last Sunday in November. But why are we talking about Christ the King? Because Christ the King is the formerly known Diocesan Youth Day. So for people who are, so we talk about World Youth Day, and World Youth Day is celebrated internationally it used to be every 2 years. Now it's every 3 years or 4 years if there's a pandemic.
God forbid there's not another one, please.
but it's celebrated nationally or locally every year. And it
Yes.
used to be on Palm Sunday or the eve of Palm Sunday. And then 2 years ago, Pope Francis changed that to be celebrated on the eve of Christ the King. And so that's this Sunday coming up.
And the important reason behind that move was because of the World Youth Day cross, that image of redemption, right? The image of redemption.
Right.
But it's not just redemption, which was, by the way, the gift of St. John Paul II on the year of Christ the Redeemer. But it was also a gift to remind young people to carry their cross. Pick up your cross and follow him, right?
But so that makes sense on Palm Sunday. It also makes sense on Christ the King. So thinking about that in the context of Christ the King
Yes.
changes what it is. First of all, what the cross means. You know that Christ is raised up. We exalt the cross. Why? Because he's the King, and he's being raised up because he's the King, not just because he's suffering under the weight of the cross. I also think, just practically, Dario, maybe I'm getting old and getting old and cranky and bitter. I just always found that there was just too much going on Palm Sunday to add a whole other thing, which was World Youth Day or Diocesan Youth Day. And I kind of feel the same way about Christ the King. There's less going on in Christ the King, but it's still just one more thing like you can't do Christ the King and Youth Day sort of at the same time, can you?
You know, the nice thing though about having it on the Feast of Christ the King, because then you really end the liturgical year with a bang, right?
Yes,
so it's like,
that's true.
The whole idea is that we've been on this journey, along the path of holiness really leads us to the person of Christ Jesus. It is whom we are encountering every time we go to our liturgies. And yet how beautiful it is to be reminded that our youthfulness, our desire to be with Christ in our youthfulness really stems from that image of Christ the King, the one who stands at the throne, encouraging us and wanting us to receive what St. Paul describes as our unperishable crowns, right?
Yes.
The crown of victory. And that's the whole, that's the whole journey of the Christian walk, the journey of holiness. It's that what we refer to as the church militant, fighting the good fight, right? And what are we fighting for? We're fighting for Christ the King. We're using the images of the martyrs who have come before us and walking with them. But that's also the whole image of pick up your cross and walk with me, because that walk will be that martyrdom of this millennia, right? Exactly. And I think St. John Paul II described this very clearly in his Novum Millennium Inuente. And as the Jubilee year of the year 2000 was coming to an end, St. John Paul II wrote this document to the whole church, reflecting on the whole idea of what had happened in the year 2000. And then he focused on the young people and said, "You young people, you're going to be the morning watchmen at the dawn of the new millennium. Shout
Yes.
the gospel from the
From the
rooftop.
rooftops.
Shout it for Christ the King." And I think what better way of looking at what Pope Francis has done with canonizing Saint Jose Sanchez del Rio, a young boy who was shouting the gospel
Viva
boldly through
Cristo
his life,
Rey.
right? Viva Cristo Rey, right? And we just celebrated yesterday the feast of Blessed Miguel Pro,
Oh,
who by the
another
way,
Mexican. Yep.
another
Another
Mexican during the
Mexican
time of the
martyr.
Cristero
Yep.
Wars, right? Who was very animate about making sure that people
Viva
understood
Cristo Rey.
Christ is at the heart of everything we do. He must be the king and sovereign of our hearts. And from
Yes.
that, the rest of the world will see it. And so
Yes.
that's the whole goal of that world, the Diocesan World Youth Day, also known as the World Youth Day in the particular, see, look at it, I'm butchering
Yeah,
it.
it's too many words. World
Too many
Youth Day in
words.
particular churches. Yeah. I don't know. We'll just have to see if that name sticks.
That's right. So this year has got a nice flavor to it, doesn't it? I mean, so this and it's quite funny how Pope Francis, and I think it's divine providence. This past Sunday was World Day of the Poor.
Day of the Poor.
right?
Yes.
A day where Pope Francis finally, since the pandemic, was able to invite most of the poor people from the town of Rome to the Paul VI auditorium to have a dinner, a feast, which was a very beautiful. It's almost like a Thanksgiving dinner that you would see in an American or Canadian culture, right? It just coming together, sitting together, having a great meal, and talk and being present for each other. That theme will carry over to the Diocesan World Youth Day or the World Youth Day of the particular churches. Okay, I get that.
You have
Diocesan
to
World
read
Youth
it.
Day. I know, I'm just going to stop reading it. But that theme is going to carry over to the Diocesan World Youth Day. So it's always going to be back to back, if that makes any sense. So like
Yeah.
the Sunday before the Feast of Christ the King will always
It's
remain
always going to be World Day of the Poor.
World Day of the Poor. And then it will be, well, technically the World Day of the Poor should be every day. But one day to really spark up this kind of missionary element of the church, right? That to spark up this enthusiasm to be, with the poor, walk with them, journey with them, hear their story, be a citadel church with the poor, right? But that has to be everything we do in life because that's solidarity. That's
Okay.
the word accompaniment really comes from that, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And here's what Pope Francis said. And maybe Dario, you can explain this a little bit because I mean I think it's clear, but so Pope Francis
Yeah.
said, for your sakes, Christ became poor. So that's the theme of this year's World Day of the Poor. And Mary arose and went with haste, which is the theme of next year's World Youth Day. So these are the themes of World Day of the Poor this year and World Youth Day. In the week from Sunday, November 13th to Sunday, November 20th, therefore, the Dicastery for Laity, Family, and Life is promoting and sustaining a series of initiatives that will take place in various parts of the world to accompany young people to fully live the Holy Father's call to arise and move in haste to those who, poor as Christ, need an embrace of new missionary fraternity. So that's the
Yes.
message for of Pope Francis for the 27th World Youth Day, which is this year.
Yeah, exactly. This coming Saturday, Sunday.
Yes, this Saturday, Sunday. So there's that connection that and I mean, unless I'm kind of simplifying it, and Dario, you can help us out here, but I love this because in a way, like what do pilgrims normally do before they enter into World Youth Day? They spend a week in the diocesan in the diocese, the days in the diocese, and a lot of times they're actually engaging in works with the poor, works of social justice or social teaching of the church. So there is always a connection there, leading us to World Youth Day, and then presumably after World Youth Day, we go back and bring that message of good news to not just the poor, but I mean everybody that's poor, spiritually poor. There's a lot of spiritual poverty, not just physical poverty. So I see that there's a natural connection there, but I'm intrigued about the fact that this seems like it's going to be a an ongoing thing every year.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think go back to what we had last year when we were interviewing Isabella from, the
From
Diocese of
Montreal.
Montreal, who is the conference director for the Canadian Catholic Bishops Conference on regarding youth and young adult activities and affairs. And one of the things that she mentioned last year was that exact work of doing works of
Works
mercy.
of mercy.
Exactly, and that was her thing, right? It was the theme was on mercy and the works of mercy done throughout the Archdiocese of Montreal, but also throughout the Canadian provinces. And I think it's very fitting if you're going to look at how we live the life of holiness. One of the ways we live the life of holiness is by actively engaging in the life of the church, particularly in its social doctrines. It is no coincidence that Rerum Novarum is almost over 100 years old, and yet still more relatable today than ever before, because we're very social in nature, and we need that interaction. And I think more than anything, the pandemic has really caused a spiritual vacuum, I guess you could call it, or an abyss of that social nature, how we interacted with each other, how we spend time listening to each other. And it's very fitting that we're focusing on this concept of synodality now, because we're, and I guess you could say we're reminded of what the prophets reminded, the people of the northern and the southern kingdom when they were in exile, of look at the beauties of the simplicities of what you have in the faith. Cherish those, but also live them out loud. Share them with others. Don't be the one who keeps it to himself, or don't be Jonah under the fig tree hoping for the destruction of Nineveh, but in reality that fig tree is withering away and you're going to get the sunburn. And I think a lot of us want to just sit back and just let someone else do it. And I think it was Mother Teresa said, don't look for someone else, be that person. Go and do something, be that person. And so what does Mary do? She rises and goes with haste, because she knows that she has something that she must share with the world.
Yes.
And so, I mean, it's a profound theological concept. And I think we're going to have a lot of time spending on that theme of go. And I mean, you can write an exegesis on it. What does that mean? Rise and go with haste. What an amazing concept, and how providential now that we're doing a reminder, I guess, of the simple things of the faith, which is to be very, conscientious to our neighbor. Who is our neighbor? I mean, go back to that story of the rich young man. I mean, that if you want to focus on a Diocesan World Youth Day, that needs to be at the core, a reminder to you that when the Holy Father writes a letter to young people, he's also echoing two things. There's that story of the rich young man who, was told, give up everything you have and follow me. And then there's this story of, Our Lady, who with this encounter with the angel, didn't just keep it to herself. It's like, oh my gosh, this is so beautiful. I'll just, I won't tell anyone, because this is just, no one will believe me. Yeah, no one will believe you. It's going to be hard, but yet she didn't keep it to herself, nor did she freak out and just hide. It's like, oh my gosh, what a shameful thing. Now I'm going to have to explain to my parents and to Joseph. But no, she didn't have any concerns or worries of any repercussions, because she knew, right? So let's get rid of the nonsense of Mary, did you know songs. Mary knew. And in her heart, she knew that the best thing to do at that point was to get up and go and do something about it. Right? And not just sit back and, as Pope Francis described this in the World Youth Day in Krakow, right? Stop being couch potatoes.
Yep. I know, and we've heard that message so many times.
Yes.
So what I like about this, so again, to make it really practical, and just so that Montreal is again doing this kind of World Youth Day in the diocese all week of activities and events. So again, if people in wherever diocese you're at and you don't know what you want to do to celebrate World Youth Day, Diocesan World Youth Day in the particular churches in your diocese, it's a great model that Montreal has. You can go to their website, the Archdiocese of Montreal, and find out what they're doing. But this is great, because if you are so a year ago, we were giving you ideas and saying, well, Christ the King is a great time to kickstart planning for World Youth Day.
Yes.
So this Sunday is a great way. If you haven't started, get your young adults ready, have an event, kickstart it. But if you can't think of what to do, go to the food bank, go to the soup kitchen. I mean, this is great because it's practically giving you ideas of what you can do. And young people, I mean, they want to participate in events like this. They love going out there and getting their hands dirty and actually actively doing something. So there's a partnership with Caritas Internationalis. So this is with the dicastery in Rome, and they have on their website a whole bunch of resources, and there's the prayers every day on the themes. And there are also other events. I know that the office, the local committee in Lisbon, is also participating somehow. So all this information, people can find it on the dicastery website. So laityfamilylife.va is the dicastery for laity, family, and life. But I'm sure if you go to Caritas, if you search Caritas Internationalis, World Day of the Poor, or even on the Lisboa 2023 website, there should be information. There you go. There's the screen share from the website. So, and you know what? Maybe you're hearing this today and you're thinking, "Oh, I'm not going to get it together for next weekend." Well, then do it the following weekend, because you got 4 Sundays in Advent that are great to be engaged in doing something for the poor as we lead to Christmas.
I was even going to add to that. Make it even more interesting. Have a Rorate Mass on a Saturday morning, candlelit. Go to that Mass together as a young adult community, and then from there, go feed the homeless.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
what you want to talk about Advent? That is the what Advent was all the way up to even today. We still do
That's exactly
Rorate
what it is.
masses. Don't think that those are gone and nobody does them anymore. Candlelit masses date back all the way to the early centuries. But you want to do something beautiful. Have a beautiful liturgy, and then
go.
But when you go, take that beautiful liturgy with you, and then animate that in your life to those whom you encounter.
Exactly. And go in haste.
Yes. I mean, listen to you. Now you're doing what I've done like a couple
When you
last
go,
shows,
go
right?
in, go in haste. Go in haste. That's okay. You haven't mentioned Carlo Acutis yet today.
No,
so,
oh goodness, don't get me started, because
don't
he
get you
was.
started.
But I mean, if you want to talk about it, see, look what you did. Like he found a secret formula to make things work. He knew, like, in his pocket he had $10, right, or €10, whatever you want to call it. Like, but look, if he noticed that there was a person that needed a sleeping bag, he went out to the store and bought a sleeping bag. And he gave it to that homeless person because he knew that homeless person needed a sleeping bag. He could have had more money in his pocket. He didn't need the money. He didn't want the money. He knew that the money was good to be used for something good for him, but he knew that there was oftentimes opportunities to make little acts of sacrifice, little acts of charity. He called these his little victories to build the kingdom of God. There you go. There you go. You don't have to be some super extraordinary, go to the soup kitchen and all of a sudden you spoon up 150 bowls of soup.
Well, you could do that, but no, you don't have to. And you know what? Very simple. And I actually started doing this last year, and I told my congregation at my church, it's like there's all these every year that you have the Thanksgiving food drive, which is, again, next week, Thanksgiving in the United States, or the Christmas food drive. You know what? Every time you go to the grocery store once a week, pick 2 items and make sure that you're taking them to the food bank. So you're doing this every week, all year round. What, an extra $10 for a bag of spaghetti and a spaghetti sauce, and or a can of soup, so that you're doing it every week. And that is something that you can do as long as you do it knowing why you're doing it, right? You're doing it because that's how you're spreading that message that Dario was talking about, that good news. That's why we're doing it. And it makes a difference to some.
It does make a difference. And what Deacon Pedro is referring to is also the fact that during this season of Advent, we are called to make little acts of penance, little acts of mortification. I know that word is like, it kind of scares people at times, mortification, but it's an opportunity to say, like, how do we die to self? How do we become more Christ-like? Because remember, Advent is not about preparing for the first coming of Christ, because that already happened. It's preparing for the second coming of Christ. And how well are we prepared? We prepare our homes for Christmas. like literally in November in the United States and Canada, and they're already singing Christmas carols, even though we haven't
Yeah,
even gotten
and
to the
then
Christmas season
on
yet.
Christmas 20 December 25th, it's over.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, Christmas
no,
is done,
actually,
right?
Advent used to be called the Little Lent because
Yes.
it was the same idea. There was, it was penance and sacrifice, and so it's not a bad practice to have. But again, if it means that $7 latte that you get at Starbucks, you take those $7 and get 2 cans of soup, and that goes to the food bank. Maybe there's a little death there for you. Maybe not. If there isn't, maybe you need to put in more money into the food bank, um, or with your young adult group or your parish group, you can spend some time making some sandwiches, bag them, and then go for a walk downtown and hand them out to people. Like, what a great way to bring that gospel to life, but also actually make a difference in the lives of a lot of people.
Yeah, and one of the things that the church is encouraging you is to spread that news of that charitable work by also using the hashtag Pray Act Caritas. I mean, that's the whole image of love. Love is caritas, as what
Yes.
Pope Benedict XVI described in his famous encyclical Deus Caritas Est. God is love, but love is whom we are, and I think that's also Pope Francis in a nutshell. If you look at his book, the name of God is mercy.
Yeah.
He describes this in how we act the person of Christ to others. How do we bring the beauties of Christ's face to others? Because the reason why Christ's face looks disfigured is because of our own selfish, egotistical sins. But then the beauty of Christ's face is radiant in how we conduct ourselves with others, right? How we
Mhm.
become the image of Christ for others. It was blessed, not blessed, but Venerable Fulton Sheen used to say, Christ's hands are our hands, Christ's feet are our feet, and
Yeah.
therefore we must be that image of Christ to the world.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Teresa of Avila said the same thing. Now you
Yeah.
confused me. You confused me with the hashtag because the hashtag that I was thinking of was hashtag Arise and Go.
Well,
But
that's the
because
other
you're
one. That's the other one.
there's
There's two
two of
of
them.
us.
So
That's
so not
right.
to confuse people, but so if you're doing I mean, if you're doing anything and you're posting photos or whatever for what you're doing in relation to the Diocesan Youth Day, Christ the King,
Yes.
the World Youth Day in the particular churches, you can use the hashtag Arise and Go. Hashtag Arise and Go.
All one word. Don't
All
forget
one
that.
word, and that's in any language. It turns out that I looked at Spanish and French, and they're using the hashtag in English.
Oh, so
Uh,
everybody's using English hashtag. All right, so
Everybody's
you
using
heard that,
Arise and
guys.
Go.
You heard that. You guys are doing a diocesan something event in your own diocese. Share that picture with us. We would love to see it. Put
Yeah, that would be
Arise and
great.
Go. Also hashtag it with World Youth Day or JMJ or GMG or WYD. Make sure you put
Something
Lisbon 2023, Lisboa 2023, or
and
Lisbona
share it
2023 and share it. So that way
and
the
share it.
world
Yeah,
can see the beauties of what is happening. Because you know what? It's nice how oftentimes we see it in social media, how we can see what other people are doing. But the media won't cover this. The secular media won't share what you're doing in your diocese. They might not even cover the small event that you're doing. Maybe you had adoration and you had, 45 young people there praying with the beauties of the faith, right? In front of the Blessed Sacrament.
take a
Awesome.
picture.
Take
Take
a
a picture.
picture,
Share it.
please.
Yeah.
Share it.
I mean,
Inspire the rest of the world.
that's how we share in this day and age.
Yes, yes, it is.
We don't get up like Mary and go with haste across the hills to the Judean hillside to visit your cousin. You just send her a text message
And
with
don't
haste,
forget to get a selfie with her, so
a
like, hey,
selfie with her so that you can, yeah, exactly. Now I know that before we go,
yes,
there's a little video, right? Isn't there a
yes, yeah.
video?
Let's share this video right now. So
Can
this
we
is the
show it?
video that's been promoted by the dicastery. So here's that video. I'm just going to show you guys so you can see it here, and so you can hear the music. And this is the video that the dicastery from the Laity Family and Life released to help you get up, right? Rise up and go, right? So here's their video. Arise and go. You'll see their hashtags on there. World Youth
Yep.
Day in particular churches. Here's the video.
Ooh, is there any audio?
Can you hear, right? Oh, No sound, huh? Let's make sure we share this with sound, shall we? Hold on. Sorry about that. There we
If you share
go.
it,
I will
yeah.
share it now with sound so you can hear it better. So here's the little sound, and we'll just go backtrack slightly so you can hear the sound now. There we go. And there you go, arise and go, right? So there's the hashtag right there. Again, it's beautiful because you don't need words to remind you of what does that mean. But that's the video that they released. We'll put that video on the bottom of our, there will be a link to the bottom of this video so that way you can take advantage of that and use that to share with others. But hopefully that this inspired you to kind of get an idea, what is this Diocesan World Youth Day, or the World Youth Day in particular churches, to help you get going on things. The meditations for World Youth Day will begin after this Diocesan World event. And so starting in December, you can begin that 7-month journey through those 7 meditations. And what we'll do is we'll dedicate one show a month to focus on that theme of that spiritual reflection for you, so that way you guys can have the content on your end and you can use our video to help you put something together. I mean, that's the whole point of the show. The show is for you to use what we provide for you to help you engage with your young people and get them going, or maybe for you to be engaged with a group so that you can become an active member of the faith journey, especially as we all prepare to engage one another at World Youth Day.
Amen.
Oh, I thought you were going to add something to it, but anyways, it's all
No,
good.
I don't have anything to add. No, this is great.
Yeah.
And make sure, like, share the video, share your videos, share pictures of what you're doing, and do it with haste.
That's right. And let us know if there's anything that we can cover for you. I think there was one question from one, and we'll answer one real quick question before we go. There was one question regarding, like, what happens if I register and my visa does not go through? Will the World Youth Day Committee reimburse me? And what is normally the answer here for that question there, Deacon Pedro?
I'm going to say that as much as possible, they will do their best to reimburse you, but it's not promised. It might not be easy to get that reimbursement, so it's better if you try to get your visa and everything done as much as possible. The good thing is that you can do most of the stages of registration without paying, and pay the last, I mean, maybe they don't want you to pay the last week, but you can probably pay up until the last minute, the 2 weeks before, to make sure that you have your visa and everything ready to go. So you don't have to pay the registration fee now. You can start registering now, do all the process of registration, especially if you're doing it with a group. You're not having to worry about doing it with yourself. And the other benefit is that when you're doing it with a group, if for some reason one person's visa doesn't come through, then someone else can take their place because you're coming in as a group. So that's the other benefit of going with a group. So I would say that in principle, yes, they will try to reimburse it. It might not be that easy. So the best thing is to do everything you can to make those visa applications and fill them out as soon as you can. I know that for a lot of people, there is a cost for the visa as well, and that might be prohibitive for some people, depending on what country you're from. But try to do all that before, and then plan to pay your registration fee afterwards. That would be my advice.
And you'll be surprised that most visas are granted due to the fact that it's World Youth Day. Just make sure that you have a flight that goes in and goes out during those days, so that way that you can tell them, I'm only going for World Youth Day. and then coming back to my country of origin. So therefore, that might be an easier way that you can get
Yeah.
that visa application completed.
Exactly. And again, if you're traveling with a group, there's a, you have a letter, maybe there's a letter from your bishop. If you're going for the youth festival or something like that, you're going to need a letter, a recommendation letter. So all of that will help you with the visa.
Yeah. So there you go. There's all the questions we have for now. Until December, the first week of December, we'll be back. We're going to take a 2-week break to celebrate Diocesan World Youth Day, and we're going to probably highlight some interesting things on our websites or even on our social media. But the most important thing is keep staying connected and get excited. World Youth Day is coming. We're only 9 months away. 9 months away.
Wow.
Crazy to think that. And it's been a while considering that we had postponed it a year. But anyways,
Yeah.
until next time, enjoy this Diocesan World Youth Day that's happening this coming weekend in your local parish community. From all of us at worldyouthday.com and wydcentral.org, thank you so much for joining us. God bless you. Have a wonderful rest of your time and know that you are loved.
And happy feast, Christ the King.
Yes. Amen to that.
Amen.